What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for week 6 of building the Battle of Coruscant and Lego. Man, this series just keeps getting more and more fun. There are just a multitude of small little builds and things that I get to do each week on top of building and kind of putting together the general shape and structure of this MOC. This week I'm going to start adding the barracks and armory into the clone base, as well as putting in a little guard post there. And then over on the apartment side of things, I want to start getting that roof on and hopefully get it to the point where I can start to put the final tile greebling on top, support pillars, and start to figure out where exactly the skyscrapers are going to go. I've got my work cut out for me this week. Let's get started. I've got a lot of progress to update you guys on to start out this week. So first is the road. I did a bunch of work on this on Saturday for my live stream, just putting down dark bluish gray brick. Unfortunately, I used up all the brick I had. It's going to be so expensive to run this road all the way over there to that Senate building. This was like 2, maybe 3 bricklink orders. You know, it is what it is. That's part of the price you pay for doing a large Coruscant MOC. As I was building it, I realized it's just a completely plain gray slab. So I was like, okay, I either got to have this be one big road and all the cars drive wherever they want on it, or I got to make some lanes so you can have one lane going in and the other lane coming out. So I decided to put these white lines in the center. I'm just going to do solid white lines. It's just white brick on its side, same principle as the rest of the road, and it's just going to run straight all the way. I might have like a break right here where the intersection is, I don't know, but I think that'll look better and just kind of help divide the road and make it look more realistic. The only thing I can't decide is if I should go with solid white lines or if I should do like some kind of dotted white line. Moving on to the base, I have the buildings mapped out. I've got pretty much the correct size figured out. So we're going to have the armory right here. This is what this gray plate represents, and then this one is going to be the barracks. They're going to be facing each other, and then you're going to have a walkway that branches off from this yellow line, turns this corner, and then comes down here, and then it'll jut off to the door on either side. I used the BrickWiz's Anaxis MOC for some inspiration for these buildings. I liked how he used the wedge plates and these, I don't even know what you'd call these angled bricks, to create just an angled side for his bases. I'm going to do something a little bit different from what he did, but I took, the general shape and idea from those. So if you're watching, Matt, thanks. The bases are going to be a little bit taller than 9 studs, because the roof's probably going to be about this tall, so maybe about 10 studs tall in total. Although as I'm looking at these, they do look pretty narrow, and I've got a bunch of extra space right here and in this area, so I think I might actually make these wider just so that they're not so long and skinny. The last thing I want to show you is some more battle damage on this sidewalk. I wanted to have at least one of the corners be busted just because I felt like that would be a pretty smashable area, just because it's on the corner and it's pretty exposed to the road and to bombs and debris and other stuff. I'm gonna add more rubble and kind of move these around a little bit probably once I get the road in, because I would probably am gonna have some of the road broken since this is on the very corner. It would look kind of weird to have the corner smashed and then the road right next to it be perfectly fine. So this isn't finished, but I do really like how it's looking so far. Before I can connect the base of the building to the ground and put tile underneath it, I need to mark out where the path will go, because it will lead up to the door of each building, and I don't want to cover the wrong area with dark bluish gray tile. I'm making the doorway 6 studs wide, but the path will only be 4 studs wide. I was going to have them be the same, but I ended up making the buildings 2 studs wider and longer. I had to make the path more narrow to compensate for the size increase of the buildings. I put some plate under the base of the building to raise it up so the building can sit on top of the base floor. I did this because the sides of the building walls are angled, and if the base of this building was at the same level as the tile, they wouldn't be able to line up with each other, because I don't have any angled tile to put next to the wedge plates of the building. But now, since the wedge plates and the building will sit up above the tile, I can just run it partially underneath to avoid any gaps. Progress check. So I got the first few rows of the building walls built. I've been using a lot of these panel pieces to help me save on parts and money, because this is basically like 3 1x4 bricks, and it will look a little bit strange on the inside. You'll have these indentations, but I think it'll, it won't look, I don't think it'll look that bad, and you won't even be able to notice from the outside. I also have some here on the front walls. You can see on these corners, using those 4x slope pieces. I'm doing a row with the smooth side exposed and then a row with the sharp kind of studs brick side exposed. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. The first is I just think it'll look cool and add some nice texturing and detail to these corners. And second, I don't have a lot of these 4x slopes. I do have a lot of 3x slopes coming in the mail. They seem to be a little bit easier to find. So doing the technique of this side exposed and then this side exposed allows me to use basically half the amount of these than I would if I were to keep the entire angle smooth. So the other reason was to save myself a little bit of time and money. I did also get the walkway put in. I had the walkway keep going this direction. I want to give the idea that there's no more buildings off to this side. While we're talking about the base, I got this little guard post put in. So as you remember, I said last week, this is going to be an exit for the base, so this is where vehicles can leave. I got the idea for this from Andrew Rash, who commented last week saying I should have some kind of guard post or checkpoint for civilians or people to get in and out of the base. And I was like, that is a good idea and something that would make sense on a base. So I just built this little room. It's nothing fancy. It's got a seat on the inside for the guard to chill during hot days, or if he's been standing for a while. And then also the controls to the gate are in there. So basically it's like a little gatehouse. That's pretty much everything for the base update. I'm gonna wait to build this one until this one's finished so I can see what I like and don't like, and I can kind of work out all the kinks of the design over here. Now it's time to jump over there. Really quick, I'm curious to know if this happens to any of you when building. If you build any kind of bowl, wall, or container looking thing, and it tends to fill up with random stuff. Every mock I build, I have this problem, and I have to keep cleaning out this block of apartment buildings before I can work on them. I have more of the same stuff coming for this apartment section. I'm starting with the roof, hoping to get enough done this week to allow me to start building and adding the skyscrapers next week. I also need to start adding support pillars underneath the roof to keep it from sagging so that this can support the weight of the buildings that will sit on top, as well as just the general weight of the roof itself. Here is one last look at the mock for the week, and I have some cool stuff to unpack with you guys. So you can see I got a lot of this roof done. It's starting to look more and more like a building, a block of buildings, which makes me really happy. I can really start to picture Coruscant with this as its base. I have been working on some of the pop-outs too. You can see right here on the top, I put in some 2x4 slopes with tile behind it. So this is just going to be a strip that runs above the rest of the roof right here. It'll go off in the back and do something else, but I can figure that out later. And then here on the front, I added 3 pop-outs in on this panel. I'm not really sure what their purpose is, like functionally in this building, but they're mostly just for design variation to help break up these large flat areas and just make this thing look a little bit more complicated and less plain. But putting these pop-outs in made me very indecisive and kind of made me realize some things about this back wall. So you can see I started to put some in right here. I even put the slopes down. And as I was building this, I was like, okay, what is the purpose of this wall? Like, what is this representing? Is the building only this big, or do I want it to simulate that it goes off in this direction? Because if I'm going to make this wall the same as these walls, that would lead you to believe that this would be, the edge and side of the building, which would mean there'd have to be like another road or something going off right here. And I just didn't really build anything to suggest otherwise. Like this base keeps going off in this direction, so I think it might kind of make sense that the building would too. And looking at these blocks of buildings on Coruscant, they're massive, just cover up huge areas of the city. So I don't think they would be this small. So what I decided to do is I'm actually going to rip out this entire panel and replace it all with just brick. Just plain light bluish gray brick to kind of represent like this could keep going. Maybe that's just like a party wall separating this block of buildings from this block of buildings or something. So I don't want to do any of this kind of like external detailing. Another big reason for deciding that is as I've been tiling this off, I'm like, I'm going to have to buy so many tiles and plates to do this on all these sides on the top and then these buildings over here. And so this is going to help save some more time and money, especially because this isn't really part of the mock. You know, you're going to be focused in here, what's going on. I don't think it's necessary to go all out on this kind of back section of paneling. That's not really going to be in the story of the mock. Another cool little detail I wanted to show you guys is this little grate that I built into the sidewalk. So last week someone suggested, they said to put the grate in between some arches, and I thought that was a great idea. So what I did was I took two 1x4 arches and put the grate in the circle opening that they create when they're connected, and then put some plate and tile on those arches, and then I created a little opening right here, took out some plate and brick and set that whole little build in right there, which gives me a nice little ventilation grate for water, air, I don't really know, but I think it looks really cool and adds some realistic detail to the sidewalk. Another killer week of Coruscant. I'm really excited and really happy with the direction that this mock is going, but it's time to hit the outro. Whew, I'm so amped after building on Coruscant. Jabim has been winding down my secondary mock series, and I've started to drag a little bit with that build, having to force myself to work on it. Not really super excited about it, but man, when I get started on Coruscant, that changes. Which tells me good things are in store for this build, because I think a lot of the potential surrounding my mocks has to do with my excitement and my dedication towards it. It sounds kind of simple when I say it, but you know, when I start working on a build and I'm focused on finishing it, getting it done, I'm not going to put as much care and effort into it as if I was just building this to build some kind of vision that I had, or just building it because I enjoy building these kinds of things. Don't forget to let me know what you thought about this update down below in the comments, and I will catch you guys next time. But until then, happy building.